Hi, everyone. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. There's a notifications bell down at the corner that will let you know when I'm about to go live. And I want to talk about a few things today. First, I want to say thank you to all of those that love and support me and my mission. There were some wonderful things that happened this week. Um, I just want to say I was donated some Uber cards and some Lime Pod. And I have to say how much easier it made. And I can't express how much more I was able to do for others as well, having that resource. It was really amazing. So this week, was kind of a rough week. Hi, Dr. Nina. It was kind of a rough week. And it was beautiful in some ways too. I had a colon cancer screening that came back negative. Yay! And of course, there's going to be the next mammogram, of course. We'll see how that goes. But of course, always good news. Then we went to a town hall meeting, and I have to say, if you don't have one in your community, it is really beautiful to start. We have one called Resolution to End Homelessness, and it's this beautiful brunch, and we all listen to what resources are out there, what are people doing, what do they need support with. And it's a chance to ask questions and communicate with people and talk to others. And of course, this time I met some really great people again who, and like one person I met was, a product manager and kind of gets projects together and knows a little bit about AI and AE. And so that was amazing. We got a chance. Hi, Blair. And we got a chance to do all of that. And in the end, as far as supplies go, there have been shoes for a woman in an RV. I was frustrated, of course, at the lack of resources, but I am pinpointing where we need to do and where hi, Carol, where the improvements need to be made on that. But I was able to get supplies out. I was able to go to the food bank. I was able to attend the meetings and make connections. And of course, it was just phenomenal. Really, really beautiful. So what I want to talk about is the term playing isn't, yeah, Rowan is like the absolute best. Um, so what I want to talk about is the term playing the victim. And I hear it a lot. And I used to say it when I was young. And I today I just heard it so much, I had to sit back. And sometimes I do this. I've talked before about the difference between overthinking and worrying, and how we should use our critical thinking skills and our cognitive abilities to really think about terms that we're hearing a lot, what they mean, what's underneath them. And when it comes to playing the victim, when I used to use it, I used it, for example, when my father was undergoing his trial for abusing us. In the trial, the defense had brought up all of his child abuse. All that he was abused. And of course, I was young and I was like, that's just playing the victim. But here's the thing, as I have gotten older, I have realized that it was not an excuse by any means. Oh, hi, CBT. It was not an excuse by any means that the trauma was brought in. What it was an understanding of how these things can get out of hand real quick with adverse childhood experiences. And so I can look at it in a different light now. It definitely was not an excuse at all. He did wrong. But there are background stories and background things that happen to people that tend to shape them and make them who and what they are. Can we combat that by critical thinking? Yes. Can we combat that by education? Absolutely. Can we combat that by paying attention to kids and children and families that are at risk for having adverse childhood experiences? Yes. So that's the good news. Now, when I'm hearing in my line of work, when I hear playing the victim, it's usually said by someone who has overcome a lot of trauma and has started to make good choices. And I think the reason for that is the same as what I've talked about before. It's this it's this way of being of saying, well, I did A, B, and C. And it's a comparative. It's a way of dismissing somebody's trauma. And let me tell you, not everyone comes through with resilience and the ability to do what some of us do. Hi, Lisai. Um, and so it's really important to really not do that, you know, because it could very well be turned on its end and used, like for myself. I could say, well, I went through childhood trauma and I went through foster care and I graduated a year early because I've said that before when I was young. And what it was to do was usually in reference when I was talking about a population or I was talking about a person, or the conversation was, it was a defense. It was a defense of myself. It was saying, well, I'm not going to make that choice. It was a recognition of what I didn't want to do. But what I needed to understand is that trauma affects different people in different ways. And not everybody comes through trauma shining like a diamond. Okay? It doesn't happen. Um, some people are more resilient to trauma than others. I happen to be very lucky, very blessed that I do have a very high resilience to trauma. Does that mean it doesn't affect me? No. It means that I am able to process it and I am able to understand that even though that happened, that I I myself need to really pay attention to the damage that the trauma did so that I don't make bad choices or bad mistakes. But it's the recognition of that trauma can cause A, B, and C. And I don't want to do A, B, and C. I need to do D. But in knowing that that trauma causes A, B, and C, it would be it would be really bad for me to say to somebody who has trauma has equaled A, B, and C that, oh, well, you're just not an outlier. You should just be spectacular instead of going with the norm. Well, the norm is the median of people. And we know that trauma causes physiological effects. You don't tell somebody who was locked in a closet as a child and tells you, I can't get locked in closets and somehow I've gotten addicted to anti-anxiety meds, that, well, you know what? There was a couple days that I spent in a room and I overcame that and I didn't touch an anti-anxiety med. Well, good for you. What do you want, a candy bar? You have no idea what that trauma did to that person and the physiological effects of that. And when I'm hearing it now, I'm hearing it a lot, of course, with the homeless population and substance abuse and all of these things. Any way that a person can make to separate themselves from a population that they don't understand, and a refusal to accept that when trauma happens, because guess what? At one point, I was a victim of trauma. Someone victimized me. Does that mean I don't survive? No. But I can't play this game with myself that it didn't happen. And somehow I wasn't a victim. I'm not a victim. No, I was. And now I have a choice of understanding that trauma, processing it, and being a better person. So it's very hard. And I get very frustrated when I hear, well, I came out of substance abuse and I didn't play the victim. Okay, kudos. Well, I came through foster care and I didn't end up homeless. Okay, kudos. Well, I did this and I didn't touch substances. Okay, kudos. But guess what? There is a lot of people that do. And so it behooves us to understand where they're at. And it only benefits us to think, truly think about your thinking. Think about sometimes, because the thing is, I've said these things. And now I'm looking at the things I've said and the things I've done and processing that and asking why. And when I hear it outside, I'm like, "Oh, so I've done that. Why? Why would somebody say that?" Well, why did I say it? What are the situations that I'm noticing that people are saying it in? And I think that we have to really look at, you know, and respect somebody's process. And sometimes it takes longer. And that's just basic respect for another human being. To use terminology that, you can separate yourself and say, well, I made this choice. But in the end, that's you. And that's how you overcame your trauma. And not everybody's choices are going to be the same. And we know that a lot of times, great, wonderful for the outliers. They make us feel wonderful. They make us believe in resiliency. And we can study that and understand how to build resiliency in other people. But the last thing we want to do is undermine someone's trauma and make them think that if they ask for help, they're playing the victim. We need to make it easy for people to say, I'm struggling, help me. And we need to understand how to help them and not doing it. And of course, not, and you can, like I've talked about, enabling somebody is not food, water, and shelter and healthcare, of course, because healthcare encompasses all those things. It's actually the same. But people, I want to educate people that there are many, many facets to healthcare, and food, shelter, and water, of course, are one of them. Um, so Okay, I'm gonna address some comments now because I can see they're kind of rolling, and I have a hard time scrolling through. So just give me a second. Um, Hi, Fiona. Do I play any sports or do I dance? I do not play sports. I like hiking. When I was young, I used to like soccer, but I was told it was a boys' sport and wasn't allowed to play, so I lost interest in sports pretty much instantly. Um, Real gamer. Thank you. I'm doing the best I absolutely can, really. Yeah, absolutely. The trauma ripples through every person differently, and each trauma is unique in the way it messes with you. And I can honestly say, after being through different, many, many situations of trauma, each one kind of hits a little different. you know, for example, and I'm not laughing about this, but like in domestic violence, each fight's not the same. You get hurt in a different way each time. Um, Thank you, CBT. Um, I want to be an advocate, and I'm doing everything I can to educate people. And the one thing that I just want people to know is we really need to identify with each other. We need to have empathy for one another, because the only way we can change this world at all for the better is recognizing what we want to change and why. And then we can look at how can we do that. But it's like you have to look at it with okay, this is probably the worst description, but I like it. It's kind of like, okay, you know how bugs have all sorts of eyes? I like thinking about that like each one's a facet of a problem, or each one's a facet of thinking about something. So it's like looking with a bug eye at it. um, Tony, hi. Yes, that one. Yeah, exactly, exactly. We can use the experience to give others hope and grow as a person, or wallow. Ooh, see, wallow in self pity. There we are, right there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is wallowing in self pity. How do we define that? Somebody is literally drowning in their trauma. That's not self pity. That causes suicide. It's not wallowing. It's struggling to overcome it. It really is. And I'm not, believe me, Tony, I'm not cutting on you at all, but it was just like a perfect example of what I'm talking about, because those are the terms I've used. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. Each person handles trauma very, very differently. And I cannot, because honestly, that could be said about me. It really could. You know, I come home sometimes and I feel broken by the trauma, and I have to process it again. you know, it's not wallowing. And there are people that I call and say, hey, I'm struggling again. I'm having trouble again. And they will listen to me talk about that trauma and talk about that trauma and talk about that trauma until I feel better. And sometimes it's just for that week that I feel better. Sometimes it's for a month or few. But hold on. Now you all know my ringtone. so so that's kind of how I feel about that is when I it's the same thing as lazy. Like, okay, I used to use the term a lot, and it was because I wanted when I first was diagnosed with fibro, and I was first diagnosed with AS, and I was first like getting sick, getting really sick, and it was a change from being that I can do anything, I can work for forever, and I don't have to, like I go 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 go, and all of a sudden I got sick, and I didn't know how to process this lack of energy, this pain, this all of this. I didn't know how to process it, and I literally, would say, yeah, I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm not lazy. I'm not lazy. I'm having trouble. The fatigue is hard, but I'm not lazy. And what it was judging people that I thought were lazy. And then I got brain injured and I started learning about the different parts of the brain and what they do. And if they're injured, what they can cause. And I learned about this thing called executive functioning skills. And your executive functioning is right here. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see, I got a scar that runs here. And so I had a subdural hematoma right here. And I could do stuff. I could do tons of stuff. I had energy to beat the world. And, even in my mind, I was always thinking. But here's the issue. I could think about but there was a line. Like I could do this stuff, but I couldn't complete tasks. And I had a hard time choosing. Like if somebody gave me a bunch of choices, I wouldn't know what to do with it. I was just like, I know that I want something. And then sometimes I would lay down and I would forget what I was doing and I would know I had to do something, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't make myself get up and do that. And I'd be like, you're being lazy. You're being silly. You're being lazy. Why isn't this working? And I started to learn about what happens after physical trauma or emotional trauma and how it affects the frontal lobe and the physiological changes that come with that. And it really made it stick clear is that I actually forgot where I was going because I looked at CBT's comment about every day a struggle. Is every day a struggle for you from every day? Well, see, here's the thing. I look at it a little different. Every day is challenging. There are a set of challenges to face every day. And to use it now, I remember to use the term lazy would mean that I am foregoing my body's ability to do things. I try to not use it with people at all. I mean, it's really hard sometimes because some people just make you want to use it. But here's the thing: that's their brain malfunctioning. When we look at it anatomically, right? We know that there are parts of us that make us function in different ways. For example, the frontal lobe and the impulse control. That's very, very difficult. And so and when you don't realize that when you don't have an understanding of that your brain controls everything, it controls your personality, it controls your eyes, your breathing, everything. Different parts control everything, even your understanding of words. I had to go to speech pathology for a while for executive functioning and aphasia. And you wouldn't believe it now, but I used to make just word salad. And my words, when I'm tired or stressed, my words go away. And it's very difficult. My son used to call it mom speak. And then at camp it was man to speak. But it's a process. But through it, I learned so much. I learned that if I see someone who is not getting up and doing the things they need to survive and not caring for themselves and not caring for their environment, that they seriously need to be in with a doctor or a therapist and talking about how their brain is malfunctioning, what is going on. Whether that and it doesn't really matter the cause. The end result is the same. They just need to work through and understand the cause so that they can understand the behavior and kind of go through it. Is it like a paralysis from different areas of the brain? It actually has to do with like the connections and the firing. It's really interesting, and when we look at like neuroscience or brain injuries and things like that, the effects are insane. And it can be from one part not firing correctly, or to some of it being dead, or to it's just amazing. Amazing. There are so many things like seizures. There's different kinds, there's non epileptic seizures. I used to have, until the medication got it under control, I used to have what's called absence seizures. Okay, for me, it's interesting. But it's interesting because it helps me understand my world. It helps me understand that we are matter. We are these amazing organisms full of other organisms that do so many different things and affect us in so many ways. And we in ourselves are an entire world unto ourselves. It's phenomenal. Um, Beings of all kind are really amazing. And now in my life, when I start to lose hope or any of those things, I try to remember that in a single blade of grass, there is an entire world. It's, for me, that's a phenomenal feeling. So, back to what I was saying, my thing is I always want to think, I want to understand where some why dismissing other people and their trauma and their behaviors and things like that. I want to get it to the point where we understand that if our bodies are functioning, I'm so sorry, guys. If our bodies are functioning at 100%, in other words, our brain is working 100%, our body, our eye, everything's working in tandem and we're great, that is like 100%, okay? And if we're not functioning like that, we find ourselves not caring for ourselves, not caring for our environment, behaviors that are upsetting, you know, us and society. That right there is a person, for some reason, that has a malfunction, whether it be in the brain, whether it could be, something as simple as a connection or a learned behavior or whatever that is. These things stick with us. We are the culmination of like millions of years. And it's really beautiful and understanding that. And, there is not enough lifetimes to learn all there is to learn. And I find that also beautiful. So, anyway, that's just kind of what I wanted to say. And does anybody else have any questions or anything for me? Amanda, would you mind? I'd like to know, do you got a job or not? Actually, I am totally okay with that question now. Do I have a job? That depends. Do I work for other people? Absolutely, I'm a humanitarian. But do I work for a company? I am a independent contractor with the city of Seattle as a community liaison for the unhoused. Am I paid for my work? Absolutely. Um, I am also a displacement consultant for One Health Clinic, and I try to also just be a consultant in the aspect of doing things. Do I get paid for that? Until the grants come in or we can get some sort of grants or funding, no, but I do it because it's very, very important. Do I get donations that help me do what I do? Absolutely, and that helps keep me going. Being a vlogger, you you pay, like, I think I made my first $100 over a year, like a month ago. So it's not really like an income source. But here's the thing, I am blessed enough to have had people believe in me and have stable housing. And that one thing, stable housing, a good, healthy place to do this, has let me make a huge impact. And actually, me and a friend were talking about that because, to be honest, the kind of joking around like the humanitarian, community is, oh, but the thing is we should just all do this for free because we believe in it. And people really don't understand how much is done late at night, zero pay, just going over research, taking webinars, learning everything you can because it's the right thing to do, not because you're making money on it. And that's how I felt when I was homeless too. When I would go out and do things, people would be like, "You could have a job." I can't though, because I won't be able to make it every day. And so I can work, absolutely, but can I hold what is considered the normative or the, normal job? No, no. And I honestly will never have a normal job. Being a photographer, being a vlogger, being my company, being, that's that's exactly what I want to do, is just be the best human I can be, do the best for this world that I can. It does not by any means mean that I do it like on, sometimes I get mad. Like today, I had an angry day, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay home today because I'm kind of mean when I'm angry. you know it's I think honestly that most people work, whether they get paid or not, that's another story. Whether they make enough or not, that's another story. But I think that for me, it doesn't matter where I'm at. I will always work to be a better human being, whatever that takes. And even if I had zero use of anything except my mind, I'd be studying, I'd be learning, I'd be trying. So that's my job. My job is several jobs. I mean, like honestly, it's a lot, but it gives me good understanding. It gives me some wonderful insight. So that's, yeah. I guess, yeah. I have employment and work, which is great. um, I'm really happy for you. Oh, thank you, Real Gamer. I really appreciate that. That's really awesome. Thank you. Um, I'm really happy for you, Mana, because the first time I saw you on that first episode, you were interviewed on Invisible People. Uh, that's the funny thing. The Invisible People, I was just myself, and I am, and that's, something that people who knew me when I was homeless too. I was always full of smiles, you know. Not always. Nope, not always. There were days I definitely was not full of smiles, but I was always looking towards the next thing that would make me smile, and really just keeping that up. And I think I do that even now in my life, is when I really just look for those things that can bring me to that point where I'm smiling. And I am very blessed to have had, in the brain injury, a hit to my attention span. So even if I'm not smiling, I will smile soon. I don't have the attention to be sad really for long periods of time. The depression will get me, but I won't know that, like I'll be depressed and then I'll watch some stuff and then I'm still depressed and laughing. It's crazy. It's nuts. Honestly, that's why I love the I love knowledge. I love understanding. I love the way this world functions. It's it blows me away. Even more so than space. Like, I wanna know what's here right now, you know? Um, Thank you, Real Gamer. I appreciate that. I have come a long way. Like, I look at, and I guess that maybe I measure, like, coming a long way in my health and my mindset, and I've come so far, in being fulfilled and peaceful, and 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 I say peaceful, and then I'm like thinking to myself, and my ability to fight for causes, but do so in a peaceful way. So Hi, Kate. Nice to see you. Do I take medications for my brain injury? If you don't, yeah. And here's the thing: I don't mind anybody asking as long as it's not like malicious or anything like that. But no, yeah, I take some wonderful meds that help me out a lot. I am on an antidepressant called Vibrid, which, oh my gosh, that I had been given so many antidepressants that were just bad, like, and were horrible, almost caused my death. And I was given this one just by chance that it had worked on somebody whose depression presented a little like mine. And and believe it or not, depression presents in different people in very different ways. And in people with frontal lobe injuries, sometimes that means that you get angry very easily. And one thing that Vibrate is very good at controlling is the rage. Um, I, for being the person I am when that happened, I was I can get really angry, really ragey, really become the opposite of who I want to be and what I believe is healthy. And then for the seizures, they put me on lamotrigine, which is Lamictal, very clean seizure med. I last EEG. I was negative for epilepsy seizures. I had some anxiety, like the beta. I think it was abnormal beta waves, which is anxiety. But I think that was anxiety because I was laying on an EEG table, with, dirty and smelling bad, and kept apologizing to the technician. I'm sorry, I can't get a shower. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because he had to be in it. I knew. Like, you have to be in an enclosed room with me. I apologize. And I have to say, sorry. His kindness, though, like afterwards, because he's reading it and he knows, like, through the screen how anxious I am. And he takes me back to, like, the professional where they shower. Says, there's soap in there. Just shower and just leave out there. Don't let anybody know. And I got a shower that day. It was, I was blown away. I really was at that time. That a human being really just could get it, could really get it. So, yeah, back to the medications. I also, I'm on, other way, Seroquel for night, and Prozocin. It's for the nightmares and the PTSD, because that it doesn't allow me to get REM, so I wake up panicking, and it helps with. And I don't. The nightmares aren't so bad, but I would wake up in the morning, and it takes me about an hour to feel like I'm not in danger, and so and so it helps that be a little shorter of a time span, and it doesn't happen as much late, like at like 3 in the morning where I'm waking up in a panic. And there's one for edema, and I think that's it. And then marijuana, because I need it. Okay. It improves my quality of life. AS and fibro aren't going to kill me. They make my life so unbearable that I want to do it myself. And so that has to be stopped. And plus, when you look at like some medications and marijuana, the cellular damage, like down at the cell level, is minimal. So I'm like totally chill with that. I'm totally okay with that. So that's it. Yeah. I try to educate people about being medicated, and how, so, it's all in who you are and how your system takes things, and everybody's system is different. Um, so that's how that is. Is there any other questions? Because I have exciting news if there's not. Okay, no other questions? So I have been offered a major opportunity. Do I? Yes, I absolutely do. I absolutely do smoke weed and marijuana oil, and I also use CBD cream And there is one that I use that really just muscle pain. It's so amazing for that shooting, just it's awful. But yeah, it really works great. And I also get tinctures sometimes, and I can make it myself as well. So yeah, yeah, I am a marijuana user, and I am a definitely a supporter of it. And now, as with anything, it can be misused, and people can become dependent or addicted to it. Um, but that's a personal thing. And what I have to say about that is that that needs to be dealt with like anything else. Um, but no, I do use it. And I find it to be extremely helpful. Is it a cure all? No. And people need to not do that with that. Because if I don't have my meds and just marijuana, I'm still a hot mess. I might smile more, but I'm still a hot mess. I'm just a hot mess with more movement. So, oh, but the exciting news for those of you who have trouble, like for right now in the US, dental is not really considered an important part of healthcare, and it so is. And I want to take care of my smile. And while I was in Wisconsin, apparently I was grinding my teeth and I cracked two back teeth, and I have a cavity. So I was offered by a friend to come, and they are related to somebody who is a dentist and had told them about me. And I was offered a trip to go get my teeth fixed. And I find that really wonderful because if you know anything about like Medicaid services and stuff, they will fix your teeth. But most of the time, that's by pulling them. So I'm actually chill with that because the big thing is pulling everything and fitting people with dentures. And they I don't know if they think it's cost effective, but it's not something that, you know, I just don't want to deal with. And so I have been very blessed to be offered that opportunity to get, some good dental care, and I'm taking it. And so I will be flying out to Virginia on the 26th and going and getting my teeth looked at and cleaned and all that jazz. So pretty awesome. So I'm gonna actually talk about. I am gonna do another vlog at some point about dental care and the health aspects of good dental care and why we need to, put that as absolutely part of essential health care, not a sideline. Same thing with eyes. I don't get that either. That's like as somebody who I go to the eye institute because I have glaucoma and iritis, and it's like I understand. Like I remember when my glasses broke and I went without glasses, I could find it. I was always confused, and it was just such a hard way to. It was a hard way to be. Being able to see is important. Being able to chew is important. It's part of our bodies. How can we not consider that essential? Um, Carol, I am a prescribed marijuana by a doctor. Yep. I happen to live in Seattle where you can get a card, but it's recreational and medical. So, I mean, you can grow it, go get it, whatever. There's no point in me going to another doctor to be told, to get a card when my doctors already know and are okay. Like, I feel very I feel really it's really important for me to discuss everything kind of I do with my healthcare provider and really let them know like anything that I'm ingesting or whatever because they need to watch for like they should just know. They should know and we should talk about it. We should talk about it in an educated manner. So, and that also helps me understand that, understand maybe if I want to be going to that doctor or not. Like, how educated are they on the cellular level of the effects of different things? So, yeah, I'm probably not the funnest patient. I'm not gonna lie. But anyhow, any other questions? Any other comments? I just want to say I appreciate you all so much, and I appreciate everybody for the kind messages, the support, the ability for like I said before, that investing in people, I was invested in so I can invest in others. And it's a huge cycle of wonderful kindness. It's great. You know what I mean? So thank you, CBT. I appreciate it. Lasai, hi. I would like to know, do you pay rent for the house? And if you pay, how much do you pay a month? My rent, I'm actually not altogether sure how it is. I'm in what's called shelter plus care because I have I think it's called co occurring disabilities. And that would mean that I am mentally ill. And we talk about this, like, mental health and mental illness. But and the reason for me, I'm in supportive housing is because I need that care. If I was to not have housing, it's it will get to the point where I am no longer able to care for myself. And so that's a huge issue for my health and for me to be able to do what I do. I am in what's called shelter plus care, and it is for people who have severe substance abuse issues or severe mental illness. I don't know exactly what they consider severe because I think, it's what scale are we using? you know, but I will definitely say that I don't take it for granted. And I feel so blessed to have personal space. And just about every time I clean, I remember being in tears in my tent because I couldn't get it clean, using water and trying to scrub the plastic. It To have a clean environment is definitely something that I don't take for granted ever. Cleaning products I don't take for granted. Like it's so exciting to get cleaning products and be like, oh, my environment will be clean. So it's an issue. But no, I believe that housing is directly healthcare is housing. Housing is healthcare. If you don't have habitat and a clean and stable environment to be you and to get healthy, then the ability to overcome your trauma is that much harder. Some people do it, and that's what call them are outliers. So they are outlying the norm. And I did not, unfortunately, have the ability to pick myself back up when I was homeless. I needed housing, and then I could start. So I am one of those people that needs the housing. um, Carol, yeah, dental care is very important. I am happy you're taking. Yeah, me too. I was oh man, so grateful to be offered that. Really. Thank you, CBT. Marco, I love your story, especially when you're in Camp Mund under the bridge. Thank you. I appreciate that. I I I love my story too, and I love other people's story, and it's a story of challenges and leveling up. Like when you're playing a video game and things get really hard, and you're like, and then all of a sudden it gets a little easier, like I will, and then it gets easier, and then all of a sudden it gets really hard again. It's like, oh, I leveled up. I learned what I was supposed to from the other level, and now I face a new set of challenges. It's interesting. Um, Real gamer, thank you for sharing your heart. Love is in the wind in me. I believe it will. I just kind of my path is interesting, and each part of it has its own interesting path, and I think that's like for everybody. And I'm interested to see where it brings me. It's definitely an unplanned life, and if you would have asked me even 4 years ago, did you ever think you would be on YouTube vlogging? I would have said no. Like, what? No. And here I am. And here I am talking to people. And here I am able to help out, make people's lives better. All the time I'm able to reach out, have Wi-Fi. Seriously, having Wi-Fi and being able to do webinars, learn stuff, research things, contact people that and get their ideas and have this community of people that are all thinking together and solving challenges. It's amazing. It's really amazing. Um, Yeah, Losai, no problem. I don't mind answering. I really don't mind answering questions, as long as it's respectful and not malicious. Because everybody knows, my block game is strong and it's my room. So I have no problem being like, oh, okay, well, that's not something I want in my life. Bye. So anyway, I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful day, and thank you so much. And I have posted, of course, ways to support the mission, me and my mission, and the row, and that's through either PayPal or through the Amazon wish list. And I have a Patreon, but I have not been posting that up, and I really should post the link in the description. So I should start doing that. Everybody, have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I will be with you later. Okay, bye.